Welcome to the Deep Dive. We sift through mountains of research to bring you the core knowledge you need. And today, our mission takes us way, way back, thousands of years, actually. We're looking at the dawn of urban life, the very first complex societies and these, cradles of civilization. And we're kicking things off not with some dry treaty, but with this amazing little piece of art. It's called the Box, or the Standard of Ur. Dates to around 2550 BCE, Sumer, modern Iraq. It's small, like maybe 9 by 20 inches, but it tells a huge story. It's kind of a perfect starting point for what we're digging into.
It really is, because right away, that box shows you, like, the three big things that make a civilization. First, you see specialized labor.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. You need real skill to inlay red limestone, lapis lazuli shells into wood like that.
Right.
That tells you not everyone's just farming all day, every day.
Right. People have time. They have specific skills. They're artisans.
Exactly. And just as important, the pictures on it show organization. You've got clear social hierarchies. There's this one figure, probably the king, right in the middle, much bigger than the soldiers around him.
So size equals status, basically.
Pretty much. That difference in size visually confirms social stratification. That's, the layering of society. It comes from some people gathering more wealth, more power, political or religious, creating these distinct classes, strata, top to bottom.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. Use the sources to see how this specialization, this organization, this whole cultural package really took root. We're focusing on 3 key areas: Mesopotamia, Iraq, ancient Egypt, and the Indus Valley over in India and Pakistan. But maybe first, what really separates these places from the big farming settlements that came before them? There were large towns earlier, weren't there?
Oh, absolutely. And we have to acknowledge those precursors. You've got Neolithic sites like Jericho, way back around 8300 BCE, or Çatalhöyük around 7200 BCE, both in the Fertile Crescent, big places, settled agriculture. But these early civilizations, they were a whole different level, a huge leap forward in scale and complexity. We're talking stable populations, tens of thousands of people living together, all supported by massive food surpluses.
Surplus is key.
It's the foundation. That extra food frees people up. Some can focus entirely on, say, governing or making crafts or handling religious rituals, and everyone depends on each other through exchange. The farmer needs tools from the artisan.
And the artisan needs food from the farmer. Everyone's connected.
Right. And within those specialized groups, power and wealth start to concentrate. That's what really accelerates the social layering, the stratification we saw in the Box. You move from maybe a village run by consensus to a complex system. Kings, priests, they command labor, they offer protection.
And we see that kind of organized labor even earlier, right? Like that Tower of Jericho, 8000 BCE. Huge effort.
Massive effort. Maybe took 30 years to build. We know it required organization. But why they built it? That's the mystery. Was it defense? A temple? Some kind of ancient observatory?
We just don't know the exact purpose.
Exactly. We see the action, the organized work, and we can see its impact. But the original motive, often lost. And that uncertainty is just part of studying the ancient world. You interpret what you can see.
Okay, so let's follow that logic and jump into Mesopotamia. Land of the Sumerians gave us the Box. How did the environment there shape things?
Well, Mesopotamia was incredibly urban. Our sources suggest something like 70, even 80% of people lived in cities. Uruk, places like that. They relied on the farming villages around them, of course.
City-states, basically.
In defense city-states, yeah. Until around 2300 BCE. That's when Sargon of Akkad comes along. He conquers Sumer, unites Mesopotamia, and creates what we think is the world's first real empire.
And Sargon needed a good story, right, to justify taking over.
Oh, definitely. We have the legend of Sargon written later, but it paints him as this underdog hero, supposedly abandoned in a basket on the river, raised by a farmer, but loved by the goddess Ishtar, rises up to become king.
Classic propaganda, making his rule seem destined, divinely approved.
Exactly. The classic rags to riches story to legitimize power. Makes the conquered folks feel part of something bigger, maybe.
Okay, let's jump forward a bit to the Babylonian Empire under Hammurabi. 18th century BCE, he gives us that famous legal code.
Ah, Hammurabi's code.
Okay.
It's remarkable. Really clear, hugely influential. It might even have introduced ideas like presumption of innocence, believe it or not.
Because it also really shows the social layers, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That's where the stratification is crystal clear. The punishments, they fit the crime, sure, but how they fit depended entirely on who you were and who the victim was. Social class was everything.
Can you give us those examples from the sources again? They really drive it home.
Sure. So, let's say you injure someone's slave, the penalty.
Yeah.
You pay the owner half the slave's value. Simple compensation.
Okay.
But if you strike someone of a higher rank than you, completely different story. 60 lashes in public with an ox whip.
Wow. So justice is basically about keeping the social order intact, protecting the hierarchy.
Precisely. It's about maintaining the status quo. But interestingly, the code wasn't entirely harsh. There's a fascinating bit about debt relief.
Oh.
Yeah, if some disaster hit a storm, maybe the harvest failed, not enough water, something clearly beyond the farmer's control.
Yeah.
Well, the debt in grain for that year could be canceled. The text talks about washing the debt tablet.
Huh. Like an early form of bankruptcy protection for farmers, recognizing that sometimes things are just out of your hands.
Kind of. It suggests they understood that pushing people too hard after a natural disaster could destabilize everything. A little bit of a safety valve, perhaps.
But overall, when you connect the environment, those rivers, to the culture, the Mesopotamian worldview seems pretty dark, right?
Anxious. Yeah, I'd say pessimistic is a good word. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Yeah. They were wild, unpredictable flooding, sometimes devastating.
Not like the nice, gentle Nile flood we'll get to.
Not at all. And this chaos seems reflected in their gods. They saw them as very human-like, anthropomorphic, but also moody, easily angered, destructive. There's that story where the god Enlil wants to wipe out humanity just because they were making too much noise and he couldn't sleep.
Okay, maybe relatable on a bad day, but terrifying if that's your god.
Right. And this anxiety extended to the afterlife. Their belief was that everyone, good or bad, ended up in this gloomy, depressing underworld, the land of no return, eating dust and clay for eternity.
Bleak. Definitely bleak, born from a chaotic world.
It seems that way.
Okay, so if unpredictable floods led to pessimism in Mesopotamia, let's pivot to Egypt, the Nile, the most predictable, reliable river maybe anywhere. This should create a totally different vibe.
And it absolutely did. The Nile was the key difference maker. Its flood was like clockwork, annual, predictable, and crucially, it didn't just bring water. It brought rich, fertile silt. It was life-giving, not destructive.
So less chaos, more order.
Exactly. And that predictability fostered this deep-seated belief in cosmic harmony, in order. They called it Mot. It wasn't just a word. It was this bundle of concepts. Order, truth, justice, balance. It was how the universe should work.
And their religion mirrored this.
Perfectly. Think of the Osiris myth. Osiris is murdered by his brother Seth, who represents the chaotic desert wind, but he's brought back to life by his wife Isis, representing the life-giving Nile waters.
Okay, explains the river cycle.
Yes, but crucially, Osiris then becomes lord of the underworld. And unlike the Mesopotamian gloom, he judges the dead. He weighs their heart against the feather of Ma'at. If you lived a righteous life in balance with Ma'at,
You got a reward.
a blessed eternal afterlife. Paradise, essentially. A total contrast to eating dust in Mesopotamia. This belief in cosmic order and reward was, well, perfect for a strong centralized state.
Right, because if the universe is orderly, and the pharaoh is key to maintaining that order.
Then supporting the pharaoh is supporting Ma'at itself. This shows up big time in the Old Kingdom, the Age of Pyramids. These weren't just tombs. They were machines designed to ensure the pharaoh's spirit, their Ka, life force, and Ba, personality, could continue doing its job maintaining cosmic balance for all eternity.
Which required immense resources and organization.
Immense. Khufu's Great Pyramid, originally almost 500 feet tall, the logistics were staggering. And this brings us to a really important point we need to correct.
The myth about slave labor.
Exactly. The idea that slaves built the pyramids, modern archaeology pretty much debunks that. The evidence points to a massive workforce, maybe 20,000 strong. But they were free laborers.
Really? Free workers?
Yeah, likely skilled workers living in purpose-built towns nearby. They were paid probably in rations, goods, and organized by the state. Their standard of living might have actually been better than many ordinary farmers.
So, the belief in Ma'at, the pharaoh's divine role, allowed the state to mobilize this huge, organized, paid workforce for these monumental projects. And things like massive irrigation, too, I suppose.
Yes, it all tied together. The pharaoh's success was the people's success, cosmically speaking. But, even Ma'at couldn't prevent power struggles forever.
Things change.
Always. The Old Kingdom eventually declined. What happened? Basically, regional governors, they were called, nomarchs, and powerful temple priests started accumulating their own wealth, their own power bases. They started rivaling the central authority of the pharaoh.
So decentralization, power shifting away from the capital.
Exactly. And that led to instability, what historians call the first intermediate periods. The central control kind of fractured for a while.
Okay, let's shift gears again. Travel east to the Indus Valley, the Harappan civilization, flourishing around the same time as Sumer, maybe starting around 2800 BCE. These guys took organization to a whole new level, didn't they?
They really did. It's an urban marvel. We're talking about huge planned cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. Populations maybe 30,000 each, which is enormous for the time.
And planned is the key word, right? The layout.
Absolutely. The most striking feature is the grid system. Streets laid out in a regular, sophisticated pattern. Cities were typically divided, a lower town for most residents, and then a raised, walled area called the citadel.
What was the citadel for? Elites.
Religion? Probably both.
Yeah.
Maybe the ruling class lived there, administrators perhaps. We also find major public structures there, like the Great Bath at Mohenjo-Daro, which was likely used for ritual purification.
But the infrastructure, that's what blows my mind, the drainage.
It's astonishingly advanced. The sources confirm citywide drainage systems, like underground channels, covered access points for maintenance, even evidence of indoor toilets connected to this network.
Indoor plumbing. In 2500 BCE, that's incredible. Many places didn't manage that again for thousands of years.
It really shows an amazing level of coordinated planning and public works investment. We know they were connected to the wider world, too.
Trade with Mesopotamia.
Definitely. We have Mesopotamian cuneiform tablets. They're written records that talk about trading with a place called Meluha, and the goods mentioned, like lapis lazuli, carnelian. These match materials found in the Indus Valley. Trade happened by sea and over land.
So complex cities, advanced infrastructure, long-distance trade. But there's a huge missing piece, isn't there?
The biggest mystery of all, their writing. The Induscript, we have thousands of examples, mostly on small seals, but we can't read it. About 400 unique signs, but it's completely undeciphered.
Wow. So how do we even try to understand a culture like that without their own written voice?
It's incredibly difficult. We rely heavily on archaeology, obviously, but there are other approaches. One fascinating insight actually comes from computer science. A researcher named Rajesh Rao applied a statistical method called conditional entropy.
Oh yeah, what's that? Sounds complex.
Basically, it measures randomness, or rather, predictability. How likely is one symbol to follow another? Rao compared the Induscript's entropy patterns to known languages versus non-linguistic systems like, say, just heraldic symbols or DNA sequences.
And what did he find?
He found the Induscript had patterns consistent with natural language. It wasn't just random marks or simple labels. And interestingly, its statistical profile showed some similarities to Old Tamil.
Tamil, a language from southern India.
Yes, part of the Dravidian language family. Now, this is really important. This finding is statistically suggestive, not definitive proof. And it touches on very sensitive socio-historical debates in modern India about origins and ancestry.
Right. That connection would have huge implications for who the Harappans were and their relationship to later Indian populations. We should be clear, we're just reporting the research finding here.
Absolutely. It's a hypothesis based on statistical analysis, part of an ongoing, complex, and often politically charged discussion. We have to be careful and impartial.
Okay. So we have this incredibly organized, sophisticated civilization, and then it declines. What happened? Why did it collapse around 1800 BCE or so?
It's another big debate. There's likely no single answer. It seems more like a combination of factors, maybe a perfect storm.
What are the main theories?
Well, there's strong evidence for climate change, shifts in the monsoon patterns, changes in river courses. Maybe the Gagar-Hakra river system dried up. Losing reliable water would be catastrophic.
Makes sense.
Then there's environmental degradation. Do they overexploit resources around their huge cities? Deforestation, maybe soil exhaustion.
Possible.
And a controversial one.
The Aryan invasion or migration theory. The idea that groups of Indo-European-speaking pastoralists moved into the region from Central Asia. The older version was a violent invasion, but newer theories lean more towards migration and cultural assimilation, possibly exploiting a civilization already weakened by environmental problems. Again, very debated, very sensitive. So multiple potential causes probably interacting. Climate, environment, maybe population movements, leading to the abandonment of those amazing cities.
Seems the most likely scenario. A complex system facing multiple stresses simultaneously.
So wrapping this all up, we've seen 3 early civilizations, all built on farming surpluses, but taking really distinct paths.
That's the core insight, I think. Agriculture enables complexity, yes, but the environment shapes the kind of complexity. Mesopotamia, unpredictable rivers, maybe leading to those anxious gods, and a focus on earthly power and law.
Egypt, predictable Nile, leading to Mahat, cosmic order, faith in the afterlife, and monumental state projects like the pyramids.
Exactly. And then the Indus Valley, A third way, maybe less focused on grand theology or empire building, but incredibly advanced in urban planning, engineering, public works, almost a civic focus.
That Indus focus on infrastructure is just amazing. Citywide drainage, indoor plumbing, things we take for granted now, but they had it figured out millennia ago.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does, and maybe that leads to a final thought for you listening. The Indus Valley civilization built these incredible water and sanitation systems. Think about our world today. What complex system do we rely on utterly? Maybe it's the internet or global data networks or automated global logistics.
Things that are almost invisible but essential.
Exactly. What is it about our modern life, our infrastructure, that future historians, if they didn't have all our digital records, would struggle the most to understand? What does our reliance on that system say about our own version of Mott, our sense of order and priority today?
A provocative question indeed. What will our ruins tell them about us?
Something to ponder. That was our deep dive into the cradles of civilization. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.